So for Social Entrepreneurship Week, we had two videos. And so first I'm going to talk about the first video, which is how to be a social entrepreneur. And this video was quite informative, just a quick run of what was spoken of and basically the main idea, or what I think the main idea was. He explained social entrepreneurship. He gave a technical definition of a person who tries to solve social problems using entrepreneur skills. Well, then he continues. He gives examples of social entrepreneurs and what they do and what they did. But ultimately, he says that find a problem that you're passionate about and solve it. And it sounds easy, but sometimes it can be a little bit harder. But just finding that problem that you're passionate about can help you start thinking about being a social entrepreneur. He spoke about how college is the best time of your life and the worst time of your life. And I really like that because I honestly, right now, it's like, what am I going to do with my life? That was a thing that is spoken about in one of the videos, and it's, what am I going to do with my life? What am I going to be? Well, the thing about college is it can be the worst time of your life because it sets your mindset to singular and what you're going to do. But it can also be the best time of your life because it's risk-free. Like, if you mess up, like, you still have time to jumpstart again. There's endless resources. There's scholarships. There's people willing to help you. You have professors and professionals that are willing to help you because you are a growing young mind. And then the people that you have, it just makes it the best time. But it's also the worst time, and I really like that. But the main thing that I really liked about how to be a social entrepreneur is when he spoke about Mohammed Umis. I can't speak great with names. But ultimately, he spoke about him and how he was a social entrepreneur. And he was from Bangladesh. And he saw that economy was high. It was growing. But that billions of people were being left behind. So he stopped and he thought, how can I fix it? What can I do? He saw the problem and he started to think about it, wanting to solve it. Well, ultimately he came up with an idea that is now known as microloans, but basically he would give loans, small loans, to poor people that had nothing as collateral, which is something that in the United States, no. If they don't have collateral, they don't get a loan. But the interesting thing is, as he continued to do research, he found that when he gave the money to women, that they would put that money into their children in some aspect of education or health. And that would then overall increase every aspect of that little piece. He also found, which, like I said, you probably know by now, I'm a business major. He also found that 96% of the time, he was paid back. That is unheard of in basically the United States banking aspect of things. And so when I stopped and looked at this, it just shows that just because someone is poor or doesn't have that collateral doesn't mean they can't do great things. And most of the time, they're more willing to pay back someone so they can continue to grow and not have to worry about having that aspect of a loan on their back. They can breathe and grow. And then another thing that I found quite, I'm going to say cool, but amazing, is that the women invested in their children and their health, and that when I stop and think about it, it makes sense, because if my dad makes extra money, he's going to go buy a truck, he's going to go to a football game, like a professional one, and use that money into something such as luxury. But if my mom ever got extra money, it was usually buying me clothes or buying me books or making sure that I was taken care of. And just that motherly aspect of things can open the doors to a new aspect. And as a woman, I found that quite empowering, that, at the end of the day, we really do want to better our children, which in the end will better our society. So I guess making those connections in this video really made me enjoy it. And then he also talked about Scott Harrison, which was very enlightening and I found very heartwarming, because he was a party planner in New York City, and at 30 he realized that he wasn't happy. He wanted to do more with his life. So he picked up and he joined the Mercy Ship, which basically went all over the world, aiding in mostly underdeveloped countries, and he saw the need for water. Yet again, he saw the problem, he saw the need, and he wanted to fill it. So he created an app, which is basically one of the first really market using the internet, one of these organizations. And he uses an app, and they basically, with all of their donations, they have made over $40 million and built wells all over the world to provide water to people, over 2.5 million people. That's just astounding. That is just mind-blowing, that he simply saw a need and filled it. And it's just how many needs do I see every day and that I don't fill? And he continued to explain 2 other people, but the first 2 that he really talked about were the ones that I really found very interesting. And then he proceeded to speak about himself. And his name is Andy Stoll, and what he does is, or what he did, he was at a party, and ultimately this all started at a party. He knew that there was a lot of resources on campus, there was a lot of people that he could connect with, but he never did. So him and his friends made a party, invited like-minded people, and they decided to throw it, but in between their party, they made people go talk to each other, and eventually it was hey, I'm in a band. And then as they continue to talk, it's hey, I'm in a band, I need a drummer. And then across the room, it's hey, I'm a drummer, I need a band. And then they would put them together and boom, magic. Well, they continued to do that, and they created, people were so eventually they made a band, and then they then created James Gang off of that, which was basically, these people didn't have anywhere to perform, and so they kind of found places, and they would put people together, and they would hold a concert, and then all the money they made, they would donate it to someone. So then they created James Gang. Then they continued, and they made Public Space 1, and that was for a friend. Well, it started off with a friend that he had a play, he wrote a play, he was talented, and then he didn't have anywhere to perform it. So they knew someone in a bar, and they used his space, and the play went on, and then it just kept growing and growing. So they created it. They created it so people could come and share their art to that area and then grow. And then they also found that there wasn't enough volunteering hours going on, and there wasn't enough places to volunteer, or sometimes it was hard to make those connections to make volunteer happen. So they created the 10,000 hour show, which made people have to have 10,000 hours to have the show. So that was pretty cool. And as a college student, seeing someone that is also a college student do that is very inspiring. It makes me realize that my vision and what I want to do, which is eventually open a nonprofit for children and their parents, both combined, because a lot of the time parents that don't have that education usually have financial issues, and they don't know how to fix them, and it's just a reoccurring issue. And then their children sometimes don't have those opportunities, so then it's a reoccurring issue for them, and it just continues throughout the generations. So I want to create a nonprofit where a parent can come and take classes to learn more about finances, and their children stay and are watched by someone, and they learn how to budget money, but in a fun way, such as, okay, you want to have a basketball team? How much are your uniforms? How are you going to do it? How many people are on your team? What money do you need to start it? And we would provide that money, and they would have their own team, but they would have to create it from the ground up. So that's just one of the aspects that's one of my big visions, and I just don't know how to get the ball rolling yet, but just the fact that someone that was in college can do it makes me think I can do it. The next video was how to create social enterprise. And it was basically talking about his methodology of how he created his social enterprise and how he kept getting messages, so he created the bib method. And that's just a quick overview, but more into what he explained. He started off right off the bat into, hey, you have an idea, make it a concept and make it reality. And like I said, that's just mind-blowing that I'm at my age, I'm in college, think I'm doing way too much, but at the end of the day, I still have time to make my vision a reality. And then how to gain traction and change the world. So that was just something that those little words make a big difference. And he proceeded to talk about how his childhood was a little bit rough, like his dad made money but didn't really want anything to do with him. His mom was abusive, so he kind of went from home to home, and his aunt was going to adopt him, but then she died, and then the next foster mom was going to adopt him, and then she died, and then eventually he went to a home, and he was very like, I just leave me alone. And those foster parents were like, no, like, you're our kid now. And so he eventually got adopted and made a full 360. And then he goes on to college, and he wanted to be a lawyer. He worked under President Obama. He did amazing things. But then he was able to sit in a courtroom because of a connection and watch juvenile court cases. Well, he realized that there was a lot of foster kids going through there and a lot of parents, and that they were having a tough time. So he realized that foster kids want to learn. They're open to learning. It's just sometimes it's just not as easy as for other people. So he gave us some statistics that if 50% of foster kids finish high school, so half of them don't. Only 3% finish college, but 66% die, go to jail, or are homeless by the age of 19. That's crazy. So he then goes to say that if it scares you, it might be a good thing to do, quoted by Seth. And my vision scares me, and I think it is a good thing to do. So I'm going to start putting it into motion. These videos really helped me discover that. And then he jumps into the bib methodology, or the bib method. So it stands for Business Impact Brand. So basically, business. What do you want to do and why? So do your homework. What do you want to do? Is there too many people in that industry? So how can you conform it a little bit to fit to your why? He also talked about Muhammad. And then your impact. Who do you want to create face value for? Not face value. Who do you want to create value for? And then how much? So seeing that problem, solving it, and actually helping the world. And then brand. Not just the logo, not just your brand, but who is part of it and is it credible? So really trying to reach out, sharing it with everyone, and then making those credible connections to help you grow. So he explained some people along the way, and it's crazy how ordinary people they saw a problem and solved it. And so I can do it too. And so I really want to, these videos help me realize that. And then the big thing that I took out of this is he pointed out that there's 860,000 seconds in a day. And he said, so don't take any second for granted. And he's right. You never know when those seconds stop for you, when that clock stops ticking. So why don't we build something that matters? What is our excuse? There is no excuse. We have the ability to change the world one small step at a time. And I think it's possible as long as we are able to see the problem and actually solve it. Actual is the real word in that. Not seeing the problem, thinking of an idea, but actually setting it into motion. So I think we do have the power, and we can, if we use some of their or we kind of build off of some of the examples they have and really find inspiration in that. I think both of these videos really explain some great people that I guess you could say are ordinary. They're just like you and me, but they did amazing things by simply seeing a problem and finding a solution or working towards that solution. So at the end of the day, like I said, I think we have the power, but are we willing to do what matters? Thank you for your time.